Okay, so that should be recording there. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the BSG Scotland Technology and AI in Care Home session. There's a few familiar faces in the audience, but lots of new faces, which is really exciting. I'm glad that you could all join us this morning. Happy April Fool's Day to those who celebrate, and upcoming Easter on the weekend. I'm sure everyone's excited for a little bit of time off, long weekend or full school holiday times, depending on which you're allocated. So my name is Lisa Davison. I am the chair of BSG Scotland. We have a few other committee members in the audience. We've got Marianne, Kayla, Junji that I can see on my screen. Let me just have a quick flick through the audience, check there's no one else that I haven't introduced. No, it seems to just be the four of us for now. So we organise the BSG Scotland, which is a smaller cluster of the British Society of Gerontology, bringing together academics, third sector organisations, and other sort of practitioners who have an interest in aging research, and we look specifically at those focused in their research in Scotland or based at Scottish institutions. So today we've brought a collection of 6 individuals together to speak on their experiences or research on technology and AI in care homes. We've got a nice mix of academia and I guess the care inspector. I don't know if you're a third sector organisation. I should have checked that before I started. Other organisations. We don't just have academics. Yeah, so I will allow the speakers to introduce themselves. Otherwise, we just end up repeating introductions. But we're going to kick off with Dr. Maria Drummond first, and then we'll move on to Nicky, Cronin, and Candice Aitken from the Care Inspectorate. As I thought, my introduction didn't take 10 minutes. So Maria, do you want to pop your slides up, and then we can just sort of get moving from there.
On the screen, okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. So 15 to 20 minutes for your presentation, and then depending on whether you went closer to 15 or closer to 20, we've got 5 to 10 for questions. I will let you know when we get closer to the 20-minute mark.
Right.
But yeah,
Thanks for
sure,
that.
floor's all yours.
Okay. So thanks for the opportunity to come along to the meeting today and present. So my name's Maria Drummond. I am the ENRICH Scotland team leader, and I'm also a research associate at the University of Glasgow. So my background is in district nursing and care home nursing. So I worked in the East End of Glasgow in the district nursing service for 10 years, and I worked in care homes in various roles in the 5 years before that. So today I'll be introducing ENRICH Scotland and then talking about some technology research that we will be starting in this summer. So ENRICH Scotland is funded by the Chief Scientist Office, and we have to support research in care homes and support care homes to become to become research ready. So what research ready means to us is that the manager of that care home is ready to consider research participation. So it's not they're not signing up to a specific number of studies or any particular studies. They are really just ready to consider research within their care home. So now we have over 42% of all care homes in Scotland registered as research ready. And when the care home manager registers their care home with ENRICH Scotland, they get a nice certificate and it's endorsed by the Care Inspectorate, and that's really, really valuable to the care homes. So the certificate just acts as a conversation starter within the care home so that care home staff, residents and relatives can start to talk about how they feel about care homes as places that participate in research, what kind of research they might be interested in getting involved with, and yeah, and just supporting a kind of a positive research culture within the care home. So in the last year, we kind of, when we got to the 42% mark, we decided we would kind of reflect on how we thought things were going, and we thought that instead of going, towards 50%, we would work with our network to kind of move them towards more research activity. So getting to know care home staff, residents and relatives about their priorities, and then looking for opportunities for research that kind of matches their what's really, really important to them. And those kinds of conversations. It's also that we also have Rich Voices research and care homes, and that's our patient and public involvement specific group. So we know that PPI, patient and public involvement, isn't a term that really matches the care home sector. So that's why we refer to Rich Voices. So Embedding Technology in Care Homes is the project that's a collaboration between ENRICH Scotland and researchers at the University of Glasgow and the University of Edinburgh, and it's funded by the NIHR. The purpose of the project is really to understand a bit more about the care home sector and its progress towards digitalisation. We know that care homes are under an increasing amount of pressure. People are moving into care homes with much more complex health and care needs. There's chronic workforce shortages and high turnover. There's the same rising costs that we all experience in our own homes within care homes. So energy, food, kind of running costs, everything's going up. So basically care homes are expected to do a lot more with a lot less. And sometimes it seems as though technology is framed as a potential solution to some of the challenges that care homes experience. But what we know is that the care home sector is highly diverse. So some care homes are very digital, lots are very paper-based, and then there's lots of different care homes somewhere in between. So ETECH aims to create a fair and clear understanding of where care homes are and their progress towards digitalisation and how to help them all move forward with this. So I created this diagram as just like an exercise for me to try and kind of map out the types of technologies that we might consider in the project and the types of infrastructure. But then I thought, actually, once I finished making it, I thought it's quite a good way of demonstrating just how complicated embedding technology in care homes is. So I split the technology into technology that's primarily associated with supporting the health of the resident, technology that's primarily supported with helping the social and well-being needs of a resident, and then we've got care technology, so technology that kind of helps care homes to deliver care, and then we've got lots of technology that bridges, you know, at least two of these, and then some within in the middle that do a little bit of everything, and then we've got the stuff around the side, kind of around the circle, and that's the infrastructure. So in order to truly embed technology in care homes, you need all of this in place and all of it to be working really, really well. So so when we talk about embedding technology in everyday practice, it's sometimes referred to as digitalisation. And one of the ways that we can measure digitalisation is through digital maturity. So digital maturity tends to be an assessment tool where a kind of representative from an organisation will complete the assessment tool, and then at the end of it, they'll be given quite specific results that will help them to improve their digitalisation. But digital maturity isn't just an assessment, it can also be a kind of framework, and it always involves measuring people, how they feel, their confidence and skills and leadership, the organisation itself, technology and how it impacts workflows and culture, the actual technology and devices itself and the infrastructure like the Wi-Fi, and then how all of this sits within a wider system. So how for social care it would be kind of how does their people, organisation and technology fit within maybe healthcare, also impacting on funding and policy and regulation. So for ETECH, we are using digital maturity as a framework rather than as an assessment tool, because what we're hoping to be able to do at the end of it is to make some suggestions for existing digital maturity assessments and how to kind of make them better fit the care home sector. So what do we already kind of think we know about digitalisation in health and social care? So first of all, location matters. So existing evidence suggests that rurality is associated with lower digital maturity. So services and organisations in more remote and rural areas tend to be less digitally mature. We also know that technology-specific roles pay off, so investing in technology-specific roles is really important to support progress towards digitalisation, and that's to kind of counter the high turnover within the workforce. So not just relying on kind of individuals with a kind of personal interest in technology because often they will move on to different organisations and services, and then the technology will be left behind. And also that co-creation helps. So working with the care home sector to identify their priorities in technology and their priorities in evaluation will help you to get more meaningful results from the research. And then the maintenance of infrastructure is really, really important. So if you are working in an organisation that sees more advanced technology being used, then you really need to invest in upkeep in the basic infrastructure. And sometimes this can get forgotten about. And then what works in healthcare? We have lots and lots of research that's already happened in NHS, and we can learn basically from their mistakes. So where have they gone wrong? Scotland's a small country as well, so we've got a real opportunity to learn from existing research and apply that to the care home sector. So now I've got two case studies that demonstrate the kind of complexity in the care home sector and its variation. So we have case study 1, and this is a care home that's situated, it's got an urban rural score of 6 out of 8, so that kind of means it's in a pretty rural area within Scotland. It was built in 1779, so the organisation is a few different buildings on a big plot of land, very high ceilings, very thick walls, and essentially in the middle of nowhere, and it provides respite care. So residents move in for short periods and receive respite. And residents can pick the level of digitalised care that they receive. So the technology, the care home's got lots of different technology. It's got a specific technology lead, and their job is to buy and try technology and see how it fits within their service. And then residents can pick the extent to which technology is embedded in their care. And then when the respite care is finished, they can get a visit from an engineer who will, if they can afford it, buy the technology that they've used, well, they've received respite care, and then they will give them ongoing support so that the next year when they go back in for more respite care, they're kind of building their confidence and competence when it comes to technology from the technology that they've been using previous to their last period of respite care. And then we have care home 2. So this is an urban rural score of 1 out of 8. So that means it's in essentially a city centre location, and it was purpose built in 2012 to provide long-term residential care for older adults. Now there's no reliable internet connection, so residents can't watch streaming services, they can't use tablet devices that were issued during the pandemic, there's no scope to support online gaming, and residents who have considered moving into the care home have had to pick between care around continuous blood glucose monitors that sync with their own mobile phone, or not using those devices and moving into the care home because the care home can't support that technology. And staff rely on their own mobile phones to access the internet during their shifts to help with decision making and team communication. So the purpose of including these case studies is to demonstrate the variability within the sector, and also to start to kind of gently question what we think we already know about digitalisation. So for example, in the earlier slide, I said that location matters and that more urban services are thought to be more digitally mature. But my work with ENRICH Scotland and working with care homes in more remote and rural areas in Scotland really questions this, because people who live in more remote and rural areas can't attend everything that they want to in person. It's not suitable to get the boat for every hospital appointment that you have. And so they are very creative and open-minded when it comes to technology and how to engage in research through technology. So it starts to question what we think we know, and is it that rurality is less digitally mature, or is it that care homes in more remote and rural areas haven't had adequate support to participate in research and then be represented within the data that we've got? So this is the project overview for ETECH. It's due to start this summer, and we're going to start with the big picture stuff. So a national survey going out to all care homes in Scotland, England, Wales and Northern Ireland. We're looking for one response per care home, and it's to try and kind of map the sector's progress towards digitalisation and a little bit of kind of potential kind of country comparison. So what what technology do they have available, what kind of training and roles do they have, and then what do they think is needed in the future. And also kind of a little bit of starting to unpick how do they feel about the term digital maturity? Is it something that fits within their organisation? And then for care homes in Scotland, we're going to look for 10 case study sites. And we're going to create a kind of spectrum of digitalisation from the national survey. And we're going to spend a couple of days in each care home and really look at technology from the perspective of staff and workflows. What technology is available, how does it impact staff, and kind of what's in its place in the kind of in the less digitalised care homes. And then for work package 3, it's an ethnography. So we're going to spend 6 months in 2 care homes and really spend time getting to know the residents, the staff and the relatives and how they feel about digitalisation, and try to kind of learn about the digitalisation process itself, because even the most paper-based care home is going through a digitalisation process itself, and what kind of impact, what kind of challenges do we need during that process, and how does it impact the residents' day and care. And then we're going to get the data from all 3 work packages, and we're going to create what we're calling a toolkit at the moment, but it will be what it needs to be to try and help all care homes along the digitalisation process to continue at a pace that they're comfortable with. So I know that this is a space that has lots of really experienced people, and like I'm a district nurse who now does care home research, and I don't have a kind of long history of technology specific research. So I've had to really think about what do I think this project can add to this space. And for me, it's about being very care home specific. So existing evidence on digital maturity can will often be associated with healthcare settings, and then kind of include social care and care homes in the kind of wider discussion. And for us, it's about centering care homes, and then I guess kind of flipping that round. And we think that that's really valuable for the kind of growing evidence around digitalisation and digital maturity. And we really embrace the variation within the sector. Our work with ENRICH Scotland, like we know that one size fits all does not work with the care home sector. So any sort of recommendations that we make from ETECH will be very, will kind of highlight the variation in what works and what doesn't for specific settings. And digital maturity is has got kind of international relevance, and it's used in lots of different sectors and organisations, and we think that we'll be we're adding really important information about digital maturity in the social care sector to kind of give a much bigger picture about what's happening in the kind of digitalisation process. And then the inclusion of people with dementia in work package 2 and 3 is really important to us. So we will be working with NHS research ethics committees to ensure that people with dementia are meaningfully included in work packages 2 and 3. And I'd just like, before I finish, I'd like to highlight that some of the images used in this presentation are part of our free content library. So we worked with a care home a couple of years ago to create more meaningful images of care homes and research happening in care homes, and we have that content library available to anyone who would like to have access to it. So I think that's me finished.
That's great. Thank you, Maria. That was really interesting. Sorry, my internet cut out halfway through, so I had to let myself back in to my own meeting in person. There was a question in the chat while you were presenting, which was about how many care homes there were in Scotland in total, if you knew that.
Just under 1,000.
Okay, that's a lot. So you said 42% were tech ready, which is about 400.
Research ready.
Yes, 42% of 1,000. So about 420. That's a lot.
That's good maths. Yeah, 436 we've got at the moment.
Perfect. Does anyone else have any questions in the audience, or I can continue on my line of questioning? Yep, Candice.
Thank you, Maria. That was fantastic. Just a quick one. We'd love to have access to your library So, where can I find that information? Because it's so hard to find really good quality photos. Because when you look at care home and digital, it's always very clinical, and
Yeah.
that's not what we want to promote. So, yeah, to have access to
Or
that would be
it's
great.
the wrinkly hands holding hands, isn't it, as well? That's always the picture.
Yeah. So, no, that would be great
Yeah.
that we could start promoting that. Thank you.
I'll put the generic inbox email address in the chat, and then anyone can contact us for access to it.
Thank you. Great presentation. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks.
Nicky, do you have a question? You are muted.
Sorry, not just to say thanks, Maria, that was really interesting. There's lots I think we can learn from your work for Candice and I in our work stream. And, you know, I like the diagram as well. It's definitely how we've sort of evolved to talk about tech and care homes and those sort of three ways. But yeah, so I'd definitely like a copy of that. You know, I was just thinking about care homes. We also have care homes for children and young people. Does any of the work straddle over into that?
So at the moment, our plan is just care homes for older adults, and part of the reason for that is the kind of the bereavement work that I've just finished, or I'm kind of coming towards the end of, and it just felt like the it felt like they need it, like they kind of need their own projects, in my opinion, because they are so variable. But
Yeah.
I have been recently reflecting on, because I have thought about services for not just for older adults, and thinking there will be younger people using technology very confidently. And so how do the staff in those organisations work? So it may be that they come into maybe like the case studies, or because part of what we're going to do with the case studies is interview people like quite senior within organisations, depending on the organisation, obviously, and then its infrastructure. And how do they make decisions about what technology they'll buy and implement? So I had thought about potentially drawing in some interviews at that kind of level. I'm not really sure, to be honest. It's complicated.
Thank you.
We have another question in the audience. Sorry, your name is just showing up as training, which I don't think is your actual name.
Sorry, Dan from Glenbervie Care Home. Have you chosen your 10 care homes for Scotland you're going to do the study in, or are you looking for invitations to join the study?
So we haven't. So basically it'll be the survey, the responses from the survey will help us to start to map out what that kind of spectrum of digitalisation looks like. And then from that, we'll have a look at the data from the surveys and who's said that they would be interested in participating, and then kind of approach them from that. Because, for example, I thought like the progress, like it would be kind of very paper-based to very digital. And a kind of an easy example of that would be like not healthcare, like the care records that are completed within a care home. But I was out visiting a care home a few months ago, and there was people in, like engineers in drilling, and they were getting their fibre and all that set up. And they said that they can support online gaming and tablet devices and streaming services, no bother at all, and especially once this internet gets upgraded. But they were not going to give up their paper notes. They were not going to move to an electronic care system. And I thought that really challenges what I thought the kind of progress would look like. So I'm very open-minded about what that spectrum is at the moment, and I'm hoping to be guided by the survey responses. So that's a long way of saying no, we don't have the sites selected yet.
When are the surveys coming out?
So that's the first work package. So hopefully it'll be like around July time. And I think your care home's part of ENRICH.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah. So you'll get lots of reminders about it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, that seems to be it for hands up in the audience. I had a quick question before we move on to our second speaker. On the first case study that you mentioned, which was the respite care home, you said that people could purchase the tech if they could afford to. Is that going to be the responsibility of sort of like the residents to have the money to buy the tech, and how does that work?
Yeah, I mean that's part of the variation within the sector. I've spoke to some care homes that well, like a really reliable internet connection is just part of something that they offer, whereas others, if you want a really good internet connection in specific rooms, then the resident and the family have to pay extra, and that's something that we want to kind of tease out and look at a little bit more and kind of start to open up discussions about what's ethical and kind of what's fair. And I think that that's part of part of like Nicky's work as well, is potentially having a look at that and because sometimes care homes will say, well, they're not assessed against that or inspected against that, therefore don't necessarily have the money to invest. So kind of whose responsibility is it then? So that's all part of what we want to look at.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think I hadn't really thought about Wi-Fi not being included in care homes. I kind of thought of it a bit like a TV license. They usually just get to have that already. Nicky, you have one question before we move on to your presentation.
Yeah, it was just to come in very briefly on that, and it's been a difficult balance for us when producing sort of digital maturity tools, self-evaluation tools, and trying to support digitisation in the sector, because obviously there's a lot of resource issues and how services are commissioned and funded, and that's certainly a lot of the feedback we've got. So whilst we've got that side of it, we've also got the reality that people are meeting their rights through digital technology, whether that's meaningful connection or other ways. So it'd be really interesting. Our work sort of is guided by our quality frameworks and the national care standards, really. So these are always being looked at and reviewed, and I think the care standards are being reviewed as well. So it's a kind of supportive push forward, really, rather than, I think, inspectors saying, you need to have this. But the more examples that are coming through about, people in care homes that can't watch their Sky TV or contact family and things like that from the rooms, I think now, because of the pace of change in technology, people are saying, well, that's not equity with what Scotland citizens, expect. So when we go into care services, really we shouldn't have that sort of disparity. That's probably, fair to say. So it's a difficult balance. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, so thank you again, Maria, for your presentation. Maria will be around for the panel discussion after our next set of speakers. So if you think of any questions in the meantime, either pop them in the chat or keep them to the panel at the end. So yeah, thank you again, Maria. And we'll move on to Nicky and Candice, who are both from the Care Inspectorate. I believe Nicky's going to share some slides, and I'll let you two introduce yourselves and navigate sharing the speaking.
Thanks, Lisa. Are you okay for your notes, Candice? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks, Nicky.
So I'll just put this on slideshow.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for having us here today. We're really excited, and it's really been a good introduction already. So I'm Candice Aitken. I'm a digital improvement advisor with the Care Inspectorate. And Nicky, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Nicky Cronin, a Senior Improvement Advisor for the Care Inspectorate. I previously was an inspector in children and young people services, and I have a background in social work, so I'm a social worker to trade, so more social work than techie. But many moons ago, I did work in electronics. I did electronic engineering before social work, so I've kind of married them together a bit for this post. So thanks very much for the invite along today. Thank you.
Thank you. So together we make the digital social care team within the Care Inspectorate. So we actually work in the improvement directive. Next slide, please, Nicky. Thank you. So today we're going to look at technology and AI currently and how it sits within care homes. It was really interesting listening to Maria, because I think a lot of the same themes are going to come through in today's presentation. So really looking at what it means for people who live and work in care homes. We'll explore how digital change is taking shape across the sector, the supports available, and how our work in the digital social care teams really supports people to move forward safely, confidently, and in a way that stays true to what matters most, which is always at the heart of our work, which is people experiencing care. Next slide, please, Nicky. Thank you. So before I go any further, I just want to briefly highlight some of the key national frameworks that are shaping digital transformation across Scotland. You might be aware of these. So these frameworks set the overall direction of both digital health and social care, from how we use data to expectations around AI governance, and then wider service renewal and innovation. I'm not going to unpack these in detail today, so don't worry. But it's important to recognize that these form the foundations of everything I'm going to be talking about. They're the reason we're seeing that more focus on digital readiness, more investment in digital skills, and more conversations about safe and ethical use of technology in care services. For care homes, these frameworks help guide how services can prepare for digital change in a way that's safe, ethical, and generally centered in what matters most. Next slide, please, Nicky. Thanks. So I wanted to start by talking about digital readiness, because if a service isn't ready for digital transformation, any improvements or changes you'll try to make will be really difficult to implement. In my experience, this is where services often run into challenges. Digital readiness is about people, first and foremost, not about technology. I really believe that. It's about having skills, competence, culture, leadership, and safeguards in place so that the digital tools, including AI, can be used safely and meaningfully. Digital transformation succeeds when people feel confident, supported, and curious. I think that's really important with improvement. And when they can access the right learning at the right time. In my opinion, workforce confidence is the single biggest enabler to digital change, far more important than technology itself. So to give a quick example, and again, Maria's mentioned some of it, the best digital tools will fail if the Wi-Fi is unreliable, if the staff don't feel confident, or there's a culture in the service that feels digital change is too risky or overwhelming. When these foundations aren't there, digital technology becomes a barrier rather than an enabler. So Maria spoke about being research ready. I really speak about being digital ready as well. Next slide, please, Nicky. Thank you. So now that I've talked about digital readiness and what that means, I want to give you a snapshot of how this looks nationally. So this is the data we collect with our annual returns every year. This is what services provide us. So in 2025, the annual return data showed a strong foundation across care homes. Connectivity is very high. That's about 99%. But there's a big difference between connectivity, Wi-Fi, streaming. So a lot of people say they have streaming abilities in communal areas, but not necessarily in bedrooms. And that's something we've heard. We also see more services actively planning for digital development, which is positive. And there's been a big increase in both digital lead roles and staff accessing the training since 2023. So overall, the direction of travel is positive. Services are strengthening their foundations and showing real commitment to digital progress. But the data also highlights where support is needed, and that's where we come in, particularly around digital inclusion and staff confidence. And that becomes even more important as technology, like AI, become more enabled or embedded in practice. The national picture reinforces why digital readiness matters and why supports and tools will look what they'll look like in the next few months coming up. We plan a lot of our webinars and data and resources based on this data. Next slide, please, Nicky. Thank you. So we've looked at digital readiness. The next step is understanding what that means for individual services. The annual return data showed encouraging progress, but it also highlights that variation, especially around staff confidence, digital inclusion, and consistency of digital foundations across services. So this is why we created the Digital Social Care Self-Evaluation Toolkit. So before adopting any new tools or even deciding whether digital change is the right move, services need a clear, honest understanding of where they are with regards to readiness. That means reflecting on questions like, do we have strong foundations? Do staff feel confident? Are systems reliable? And importantly, do people understand why digital change might affect their rights and choices? The toolkit is designed to support that reflection. It isn't a checklist. It's not a compliance exercise. We really focus on making it a right-based supportive resource that helps services pause, look at things that are working well, and identify where there are gaps, and then plan meaningful next steps at a pace that feels right for them and the people they support. In other words, the toolkit helps services move from, I think we're doing okay, to, I know where we are, I know how we need to move forward, and both safely and confidently with the team. And that is the foundation to become more digitally enabled or more readiness with regards to advanced digital tools like AI. Next slide, please, Nicky. Thanks. So on this slide, I just want to briefly highlight some national learning resources that can support digital readiness across social care. The digitally enabled workforce at NES offers a strong set of open resources and access to training such as digital and data confidence. They've got the capability framework, which describes core skills everyone should have. And one of the most useful elements, in my opinion, is their self-assessment tool, along with an organizational dashboard. So staff can really get a personalized learning plan for themselves, and then the leader can see the bigger picture of the strengths and gaps within their service with regards to digital. And then we've worked a lot with SSC, and they provide a complementary support. They have resources such as 23 Things Digital, which is one of the easiest ways for staff to build that confidence at their own pace. And they also provide practical cybersecurity resources and clear guidance on using AI safely and ethically. I really think that together these resources give services the foundations they need for that safe, confident, person-centered digital change. I've just given a really brief overview today, but we did have both speakers from these organizations in our previous webinar. So if you wanted more details about any of the resources or a full walkthrough of our toolkit, I'll put a link into the chat when I'm finished here. Along with a link to our hub page where we have regular updates of training, case studies, and interesting articles. Nicky, over to you. That's me done.
Thank you, Candice. Thanks. Right. I'm just going to I've got a couple of slides just on this just now. It's a piece of work that we've been involved with for over a year, probably almost 2 years. And it started through sort of lots of workshops led by DHI, Digital Health Centre for Innovation, based out of Strathclyde University. So they've got that sort of focus on the innovation space for health and care and well-being. So there was around 20 kind of national organisations, lots of organisations involved in this kind of scoping work. It followed the kind of Scottish approach to service design, so lots of discovery, developing, what was needed, and it's identified a number of key gaps, but one of the key gaps was the need for a kind of digital pathway or a hub for innovation in social care, particularly focused on social care. So it's just been launched in December, the Digital Care Collaborative Scotland. So it's Margaret Warriski that's been leading on a lot of the work, and these are the kind of 5 sort of areas that the hub has kind of been shortened to the hub will focus on. So it's very early stages. We sit in the kind of development board for this, and there's a number of meetings throughout 2026 really to map out the steps we're going to take to achieve these key areas. So this year, knowledge exchange and networking is going to be one of the key areas. So establishing a space where tech and policy can connect, learn, share and collaborate across Scotland. So academia, industry, social care, hopefully can all collaborate and identify, enablers, barriers, and promising innovation. And you may think, or maybe aware of the innovation pathway in health known as ANYA, and they have that sort of where you're gathered good evidence on a promising sort of digital innovation. Then you can use the ANYA pathway, and you can develop your technology through this pathway, and it can get that Once for Scotland approach, go to national procurement, Once for Scotland approach, which historically, has all been NHS or health-based projects through ANYA. So really, I think this was identifying a gap and hopefully being able to mirror something similar for social care. The other one, I think, knowledge exchange and networking, and also developing resources and practical tools. They'll be the two areas that the pathway focuses on this year. I like this quote. It's a good book, actually, by Mustafa Suleyman, the CEO of Microsoft AI, and I think it really hits home the pace of change in technology, not just now, but historically as well. So some of our grandparents, great-grandparents will have experienced this, growing up, travelling by horse and cart and burning wood for heat in the late 19th century, and spending the final days travelling by aeroplane and living in houses warmed by the splitting of the atom. So it kind of puts, sometimes I can feel, we can all feel a bit, wary of the pace of change, and especially with AI coming around the corner. But looking back and looking at technology, maybe it's always been that way, doing things differently. So just talking a wee bit about AI, what is the big shift? And I remember, kid of the 90s, I remember when the IBM computer Blue, I think, beat the chess champion Kasparov in 1990. And everyone was like, oh my goodness, machines, computers are able to do human-like things, and this is going to accelerate at such a pace. And that was in the 90s. And I don't think it really did. I think it's taken until sort of the 2010s and yeah, machine learning for that to really sort of play out and do more exciting things that really, people, all these tools that we're using now, set up and take notice. So yeah, AI, the way I like to think of it is really teaching machines to do human-like things and learn from experience like we do sometimes, spot patterns and data, like noticing trends in behaviour and making suggestions or decisions. So we've just got the computing power to analyse data and do these kind of three things. So yeah, but unlike humans, AI doesn't have feelings or judgment, and it's just following rules based on data. So on the kind of making decisions, I'm just going to talk briefly about a project we've been involved in. Some of you may have heard of this project that we've been involved in. It's called, it's Pain Check is the app, and it's really about pain in older people that can't reliably self-report pain. Mainly, a lot of the research around and the validation around this is focused on dementia, but it has been verified for younger children, pre-verbal as well. So yeah, and obviously undetected pain has consequences, and has impact on behaviour, whether that's falls, medication, stress and distress, areas like that. So what is this? It's basically, it uses a little bit of AI to algorithms to analyse micro features in the face. So it takes a facial scan. It's a 2-minute process, really, once you learn how to do it. And it recognises the facial expressions indicative of pain. Social care staff can do this, as well as nursing staff, which is key. I think in the past, nursing staff trained in NABI pain scale would have been responsible for this. It then guides the user through a questionnaire checklist, which is actually the main part of the scoring. So it's the observations that the carer can see: movement, vocalization, and then the automated pain score comes out. So it's mild, moderate, or severe, and it's all backed up via the cloud, and it integrates with all the digital care records on the right hand side there, so you can get a record of someone's pain over time. And that's really the useful part of it. It documents it, and I think the actual basis of it is based around the ABI pain scale, so it's not assessing pain in any different way. So we started this 3 years ago, and we've had a couple of phases. 21 care services have been involved across Scotland, phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 was in the east, and it was just 4 care homes, and they were kind of volunteered. They were kind of early adopters to technology, volunteered themselves. Phase 2 was more, we asked inspectors to identify care homes that they felt were digitally enabled, so really focusing on services with that we thought had that digital capability. And we also put out a call to services as well at one point through our provider updates, just asking for more, because we had more licenses, who would be up for getting involved in the trial. So interestingly, we had no documented pain assessments at all at baseline, which was a surprise to us. Not that the pain assessments weren't being done in practice, but they certainly weren't being documented. And that's something we've potentially been focusing on a wee bit more in the Care Inspectorate as a result. During our trial, we had almost 10,000 assessments using pain, so usability, an increase in pain assessments was something we got out of this, if nothing else. But we got lots more out of it as well. 22% of these assessments showed pain, and a big increase in different assessing users. So 224 people actually doing pain assessments. And this wasn't an academic study, it was based around a quality improvement methodology. So yeah, we had outcome measures, like we looked at medication optimization, and then we looked at quality of life indicators, which were falls, stress and distress, and dependency score, and also BMI, things like that as well, which were all metrics that care services were looking at and recording. I think just recognising some of the things Maria was talking about earlier around the pressure on services, regardless of, commit to pilot projects like this. So trying to minimise that impact. That's just a wee bit of the medication optimisation. So looking at the graph on the left-hand side, in the baseline period, you can see there's no pain assessments. And then after the 12-week period, we started using pain check, and you can see the moderate sort of pain scores and the correlation of PRN analgesia on the right-hand side. You can see there, and you can also, in the baseline period for this individual, this is one person I should say, we had 6 periods of stress and distress in the first 12 weeks, and then 4 periods of stress and distress in the 24 weeks afterwards, whilst the pain was being managed or optimised. So, and the quality of life measures, we had lots of attrition in this project. So out the 21 services, ultimately we had 5 that produced the data, the 3 months baseline and then the 6 months test period. So these are just some of our metrics. I'll not go through them all. The average across those 5 that contributed and used pain check and provided the data was 23% reduction in falls. 51 maintained or increased BMI, which was just a surprising finding we found, and 50% maintained or decreased their dependency score. So yep, it moved on after this, and we got some funding through DHI from Napier University to do an evaluation of pain check in Scotland. So there was a different parts to that. It was a kind of desktop analysis of some of the data on pain check, and also looked at our data across phase 1 and 2, and a lot of surveyed staff in care homes and people experiencing care as well. Didn't get great amount of feedback, but generally the feedback was very positive on pain checks. You saw the potential certainly for pain check. There's been pilots across, not ours, but across East Ayrshire, Dumfries and Galloway, and Argyll and Bute, I think, have a live pilot just now. Leadership, yeah, I think we touched on some of this as well. Leadership and digital foundations key really to success. If I'm thinking about the 5 care homes that did well, or 1 or 2 that really flew with it, they had that leadership buy-in, but they had lots of people bought into it within the care services as well. So it wasn't a digital champion or anything like that. It was real commitment to implementing it, and we provided as a team lots of ongoing training. We were out to the care homes monthly, and we did sort of training, face-to-face training, and that early implementation period was lots of work. So it really is about people. We found it was a significant collaboration across innovation partners. So I think looking at the innovation hub I was talking about earlier, we're quite keen to see if this is promising, digital technology in care homes. Can this be something that can benefit from the pathway, the new innovation pathway I spoke about before, the DCCS? And we're speaking, one of the recommendations from the report was a cost benefit analysis. So we're working with Strathclyde University just now just to see if that's a possibility with the data we have. I'm just mindful of time, I'll speak quickly. Pain people ask sometimes, and we're evolving our approach on AI. How is it considered during inspection? And this is not a position statement from the Care Inspectorate. This is really just kind of looking at probably how other regulators do, and it's maybe something that we will look at, putting a position out on it or guidance out on it in the future. I think everything's happened very quickly, but it's not inspected separately. Inspectors won't look at technology, inspect technology, only its impact matters. So where there is an outcome potentially as a result of AI used well or not well, then that could be potential for a focus for inspectors. Providers are not expected or required to use AI, and inspectors don't assess technical design, so it's just only outcomes for people. And we are looking at AI for our own work as the Inspectorate. A lot of collaboration internally and sector engagement around the risks and benefits of using the AI tools, and we've got an internal position statement. For example, we just use Copilot, and we're trialling Copilot for expediting the writing of inspection reports and adult regulated inspections. We have some premium licenses for Copilot, which offers a lot more usability, and to support the production of meeting records from admin, and also Smart Survey in our strategic inspections to draw out themes from large quantities of qualitative information as well. And that's us. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Candice and Nicky. That was really interesting. I have a quick question about the pain check stuff. So the graph that you showed was sort of almost flat at the start, and you said that this was one person, and then as soon as they started using the technology, the medication was also being administered. So do you think that this pain was going undetected, or do you think that they just started experiencing pain happened to coincide with using the technology?
Thanks, Lisa. Well, we had no documented pain scores because it was a retrospective at that point. So when we come in to do the go live date, we would ask for 12 months previous medication use and also documented pain scores. But yeah, there wouldn't be anything for pain, but for medication, there would have been. So yeah, I would imagine that it's been treated pain.
And the other correction, Nicky, was it not stress and distress? So there was unrecognized pain, but stress and distress was high and then it was related to the pain scores being treated for pain, and then stress and distress was decreased.
Yeah, and you don't know if it's the kind of what the correlation is, I suppose, and that's just the data that's been pulled out from one individual. We did have lots of examples, I would say, of medication optimization where using pain check, someone would be on, medication. It could be opioids or PRN analgesia, and they would have low pain scores when we started doing that. And where they would link in with prescribing GPs, it would be discontinued. We saw that a number of times actually, or vice versa. Ruling pain in. So that was why I think there was a sort of thought at the start that it would be about reducing medication use, but not always. It would go up and down. So I think we thought more about optimization latterly. It was I should say, the pain check project was a collaboration with, you may be familiar with David Marshall. He's the pharmacist with the Senior Improvement Advisor with the Care Inspectorate, and all the graphs are his, and he did a lot of the kind of work around the medication and looking at the data. So I can check. That's a good question actually about the medication one. Thank you.
Kayla, you've got a question?
Yeah, thank you both so much for the brilliant presentation. I'm actually really curious. I tried checking the website to see if there's anything, but I'm not the best at searching things, so I do apologize if there is something there. But I'm curious about if there's any evidence on the outcomes for older people who come from ethnic minority groups, and what does that mean in terms of the digitization of care at this point, with Scotland implementation of AI. Has there been any work done looking into this yet, or is that on the horizon at all?
Yeah, I'm not sure. From us, no, because I suppose we're a small team and we do it's a national quality improvement program. So we're always trying to think about maximum impact, I suppose, for the things we do. So we are quite general across the population. Yeah, so I think, and even in pain check, it was in terms of how we got our samples and things like that. It was really just we had 10 licenses initially for each care home in phase one, and it was really just who the staff felt were showing kind of, potential agitation or, the need for pain assessment, I think was how they were led on that. And in the second phase, we had pain licenses for all residents as well. But no, thank you for the question. And I think it's a good one. I don't know, Maria, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it may be something that will come out through ETECH. I know through my work with district nursing, I know there's certain care homes that kind of tend to pull in residents from the surrounding areas, and there can be care homes that have more ethnic diversity than others. So it's definitely something for me to take and to consider for ETECH, especially when we're looking for the case study sites and ensuring that we've got a good mix.
Okay. Jane, do you want to ask your question?
Sure, thanks. It's maybe not so much of a question, but an observation. So you mentioned 23 things leadership there in your presentation. So 23 things leadership's been around for some time now, as there are other digital resources to support digitization in care homes. And I guess I'm just thinking about the challenges of adoption. So there are numbers of resources out there, but what's done to be supporting adoption of these resources in care homes?
Thanks, Jane. Nicky had to go. So it's just me. You're absolutely right. And I think the adoption comes from leadership. We need to be making it from the top down, because even if you have a change champion or digital lead, they don't have enough position, power, influence to be making these big changes. So, our work is trying to speak directly with service providers or managers to get the buy-in, because they really need to be adopting this. So from our perspective, we work a lot with Scottish Government, with digitally enabled workforce, and we're just trying to send the message out as much as possible. But people are scared of change, and people are scared of technology. So we just need to keep, beating the drum. I really believe that once people see the benefits, what's the motivation of making these changes, then we'll start seeing progress. But unless anybody else has anything else, that's all we're trying to do. I think we need to try and change leadership.
Thank you. I would agree. Yeah.
That's great, thank you. I did schedule in a few minutes for a quick comfort break if anyone wants to go and fill up their tea or coffee before we start the panel session. We'll start the panel session at about 5 past. I'm going to turn the recording off now, so if people want to pop their cameras on for the panel session, do feel free